Picture this. It is a hot afternoon in Mexico City. Street tacos on a plastic plate, salsa that should honestly come with a warning label, and next to it, a glass bottle full of ice-cold, pulpy fruit juice called Boing. For millions of Mexicans, that drink is not just juice. It's childhood, it's family, it's a street food culture in a bottle. And right now, Boing is in big trouble. Today you'll hear the wild, true story of how a simple juice brand helped spark one of Mexico's most important labor battles, became a work-owned cooperative, stood up to Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and is now being pushed to the edge by healthy lifestyle laws that might actually kill it. If you grew up in the US, your childhood drinks might have been Capri Sun, Kool-Aid Jammers, or that one soda your parents swore you weren't allowed to have, but somehow always showed up at birthday parties. In Mexico, for generations, one of those core memories has been Boing, a thick, fruity drink made with real pulp, usually paired with tacos, gorditas, or whatever delicious street food is sizzling in the comal. In 2025, Boing is in danger of disappearing, not because people stop loving it, but because of new taxes and regulations that, on paper, target sugary drinks, but in practice may wipe out one of Mexico's most iconic worker-owned brands. Back in the late 1930s and early 1940s, a man named Rafael Victor Jimenez Amullo started a small company in Mexico City selling popsicles and bottled water. His dream was simple but ambitious, to make refreshing drinks with real fruit for everyday people. The company started in modest neighborhoods like San Rafael and Colonia Tránsito. Its first start product was a soda called Pato Pascual, which was marketed as one of the first 100% Mexican soft drinks made with fruit. Later came another soda, Lulú, designed for a growing urban population that wanted quality and flavor without breaking the bank. By around the 1960s, the company Pasqual was booming. It expanded across Mexico and even reached markets like the United States and Japan. That's when they launched Boing, a non-carbonated drink made with natural fruit pulp and no preservatives, inspired by Mexico's traditional aguas frescas. The founder wanted the product to be modern and hygienic, so he partnered with the Swedish company Tetra Pak and secured exclusive rights to a now iconic triangular package, making Pasqual one of the first brands in Mexico to use that kind of aseptic carton. On top of that, they bought a plant from Canada Dry to expand production. Everything looked unstoppable until a labor war broke out. By the early 1980s, Mexico was in a brutal economic crisis. In 1982, the government ordered wage increases of 10, 20, and 30% to protect workers as inflation soared. Many companies complied. Pasqual's owners did not. And workers at Pasqual were put in an exhausting 12-hour shift under tough conditions, and they had had enough. With the help from left-leaning organizers, they called a strike on May 18, 1982, shutting down both main plants in Mexico City. The owner assumed they'd eventually give up and come back, but they didn't. And then came the shocking moment. On May 31, he ordered gunfire to be opened on the striking workers. 2 workers were killed, 17 more were injured. Public outrage exploded. Protesters occupied the labor board offices, unions, and artists rallied to the workers' side, and the conflict became national news. What followed became known as La Guerra de los Patos, the dog war, named after the Pato Pascual mascot. After years of legal and political battle, the solution was unprecedented. Instead of simply crushing the strike or bailing out the owner, authorities agreed that the workers themselves would take over the company. In 1985, the workers created the Sociedad Cooperativa Trabajadores de Pasqual, a worker-owned cooperative. They acquired the company's assets, including its factories and brands, and restarted operations under a totally different model, one where the workers are the owners. This wasn't some utopian experiment on paper. They physically organized trucks, went to a plant in Aguascalientes where Boing was still being produced, loaded up product, and drove it back to Mexico City to relaunch distribution. Inside the cooperative, power shifted. Decisions started being made in general assemblies where every member had a voice. They kept hierarchy because someone still has to manage logistic, finances, and productions, but they tried to humanize it. Better conditions, shared profits, and a commitment not just to money, but to dignity. Over time, Cooperativa Pascual became a symbol of Mexico's cooperative movement. Today, it employed thousands of people across several Mexican states and reinvests profits into its members and the farming communities that supply its fruits and sugar, instead of funneling everything to distant shareholders. Its philosophy is simple: prioritize jobs and affordable prices over maximizing profit. That's a radically different approach from the multinational soda giants it competes against. But now, Cooperativa Pascual is colliding head-on with a new wave of public health policies. Mexico had one of the highest rates in childhood obesity in the world, and sugary drinks are a big part of that conversation. In 2014, Mexico introduced a national tax on sugary drinks. For Pasqual, that meant Boing sales dropped by around half, and it took years to recover because the cooperative chose to protect jobs instead of slashing payroll to save money. In 2025, things escalated again. First, the government's Healthy Life or similar school health strategy banned junk food and sugary drinks from schools nationwide, wiping out a major part of Boing's traditional market. Then Mexican lawmakers approved a sharp increase in the special tax on sugary drinks, the IEPS, starting in 2026. The tax on sugary beverages will jump from 1.64 pesos per liter to 3.8 pesos per liter, almost an 88% increase, while drinks with artificial sweeteners will be taxed at 1.5 pesos per liter. For Coke and Pepsi, which control roughly 60% of Mexico's soft drink market, this is painful, but manageable. They can reformulate products using cheap high-fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners to qualify for lower taxes and protect their profit margins. Boing, on the other hand, has built its identity on using real fruit and Mexican cane sugar. The cooperative rejects high-fructose corn syrup, even though it is cheaper, because it wants to support local agriculture and keep its drinks closer to traditional aguas frescas. And here's a paradox. A law written to improve public health might end up crushing the smaller, more community-oriented producer, while barely denting the global giants. Cooperativa Pascual only has a small share of Mexico's soft drink market, around a couple of percentage points, yet it supports about 4,500 workers directly and hundreds of sugarcane producers who rely on its purchase. If taxes and regulations squeeze it too hard, leaders warn that sales could collapse by as much as 60%, forcing them to cancel. Here's the paradox. A law written to improve public health might end up crushing the smaller, more community-oriented producer while barely denting the global giants. Cooperativa Pascual has a small share of Mexico's soft drink market, around a couple of percentage points, yet it supports about 4,500 workers directly and hundreds of sugarcane producers who rely on its purchases. If taxes and regulations squeeze it too hard, leaders warn that sales could collapse by as much as 60%, forcing them to cancel plans for new plants and even consider shutting down operations. When a cooperative like this dies, it doesn't just mean less choice in the juice aisle. It means fewer decent jobs, less support for small farmers, and one less example that one worker-owned business can survive in a world dominated by corporate giants. On top of that, a whole chunk of Mexican street food culture is at risk. Bing has been one of the few mass-produced drinks that integrated naturally into street food without homogenizing it. If it disappears, something intangible disappears with it. So what do you do with that? Everyone agrees that kids deserve better health. No one is arguing that Mexico, or the US for that matter, doesn't have a massive problem with sugar, obesity, and ultra-processed foods. But the story of Boing forces a harder question. When governments go after unhealthy products, who actually pays the price? The global corporations that can instantly reformulate and lawyer up, or the worker-owned cooperative that insists on using local sugar, real food, and sharing profits with its people. So now that you've heard the story of Boing, the strike, the cooperative, and the tax war, what do you think? Should public health policy hit every sugary drink the same, no matter who makes it and how? Or should there be room in the rules to protect worker-owned companies and local culture? Drop your thoughts in the comments.